Hi, this is Aileen Duncan for the Wallach's Art Blog. Earlier in 2020, I was invited to visit the home of Bill Staubi, one of Ottawa's major collectors of emerging art. He owns over 600 pieces of art, all packed into his 2-bedroom condo near Elgin Street. Let me tell you, the sight of floor-to-ceiling art was overwhelming, in the best way possible. Bill gave me a little tour of his art collection, and he shared some of the factors that encourage him to support the creative arts in Ottawa. Join us for this interview about a man with distinguished tastes, whose generosity has fueled hundreds of artists in Ottawa to keep going with their career. Let's dive in, shall we?
So this is the kitchen. Yeah, you're starting to get a sense of what you're going to see.
Amazing.
There's a wild, crazy mix of stuff. The collection really has two major parts to it.
Okay.
Sort of things that I'm just generally interested in, and then work that's either by queer artists or has a queer aesthetic to it. Yeah, I've started to include in the collection the work of Indigenous artists, and luckily have been able to find the work of two-spirited Indigenous artists. The thing for me that I enjoy about the work is that there's, from almost every piece, there's a little story to it. Either how I got it, who I got it from, why they made it, that kind of a thing. And so people say to me, doesn't it get overwhelming having so much work out all the time? But for me, it's just each time I look at it, I think of these stories that go with it. So I get the pleasure of the image itself, but I also get the pleasure of the story that goes that accompanies it.
How do you choose what to put up?
It varies. Sometimes I'll get on a theme, and so I want to put up pieces. A lot of times, it's when something new comes in, it'll go up, and then I'll think, oh wait, that reminds me of, and that would go well with, or those don't go together, and I just have to take something down and then find something to go in its place. This is actually the first painting I ever bought.
This is the first one.
Bought this in 1978, and I had just graduated from my Bachelor of Arts degree. 4 artists had arranged to have a show. But being around them and their excitement about what they were doing, and I thought, this is really neat. And I saw this painting, I really like that. And so I said, I'm going to buy myself a painting. That'll be my graduation present to myself. I'll buy myself a painting. Unfortunately, I learned a lot about myself that day, and I should have paid attention to what I learned, but I didn't. Because a few minutes later, I thought, I like that painting by this other artist, so I'll buy that one. And then I'll buy that one. And then I had bought work from 3 of them, so I had to buy work from the 4th one so that they wouldn't feel bad. So I ended up, all told, with 5 paintings. Without a job and without a nickel to my name. I mean, I had just finished my degree. I had been eating tin spaghetti and bags of rice for months on end because my money was running out. So I had to go to the bank and take out my very first bank loan for the glorious sum of $360. You can't get 5 paintings for $360 these days. Probably didn't buy anything for quite a while after that. In 2000, I started picking up pieces to decorate an apartment, and then I got involved with the Le Petit Mort Gallery and started going every week to those shows, meeting artists, getting caught up in both the art scene and some friendly competition with other collectors. And so, we would, who's going to get there first? Or we'd see each other, did you get this piece? Did you, who bought that piece? So there was a little bit of that. And so, that's when the collection really started to expand, and I've just continued from there. I have the bad habit and the good privilege of being able to pick things up when I see them and I like them. And most of the galleries in town will do payments, so that enables people like me. I get a lot of work, like I say, from of emerging artists. So I go to student shows. I shop a couple of different auction sites. for work. So it comes from a variety of places, but that's how I got started.
And so the bulk of your collection has been obtained in the past 20 years?
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the bulk of what you see here, would be, in the last 20 years, mostly the last 15. Ooh,
so how many pieces do you have?
I get asked that a lot. It's certainly in the hundreds. I did a quick count one day of what's hanging on the walls. Right now there's over 300 pieces of work. So I would say probably at least 600 pieces in the collection. A lot depends too on how you count certain things. I have a series of prints by an artist. Do I count that as one series or 15 individual prints? You could go down that kind of rabbit hole, but yeah, it's a substantial amount of material.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think is the estimated value of your collection?
My usual answer to that question, because I get that a lot, is the collection is both priceless and worthless. It only has a value if I sell it, and since it's not for sale, it's not worth anything. If I were to sell everything, it's hard to know because the market is so mercurial. For sure, there's work I've bought that I will never get back what I paid for it. Either the artist's work hasn't appreciated yet, it's too soon, or they've abandoned their career and they haven't built an audience, so it would be by chance that somebody would be interested in the piece. So yeah, I've never really tried to figure it out. I didn't buy it I don't buy the work as an investment. Mm-hmm. That's one thing I'm not. I'm never constrained when I see a piece. Oh, will this be worth more in time? I'm almost 65, so it's unlikely I'm going to live long enough for most of this to appreciate in any huge amount. So
why do you buy the art?
I buy it for a couple of reasons. I like it. I'm in a privileged position to be able to. But for me, I want to live in a city that is vibrant. I want to live in a city that's creative. I want to live in a city where everybody doesn't have to work as a cog in a machine, surrounding myself with the same things that I'm going to see at my friend's house, that I'm going to see at my relative's house, that I'm going to see when I go to the business. I thrive on that variety. And so in order to live in a place like that, you have to contribute to it in some way. Either you make the art and hope that other people will buy it, or you buy the art so that other people can make it.
Or you do both like you do.
Or you dabble in both. And so to the extent that I'm able to, it's my way of contributing to a place that is more like the kind of place I want to be in. I don't need to go somewhere else to have that. I need to do something to help contribute to it here. And so I do that. I like the mentoring role that comes with what's happened as a result of the collection. For example, recently I had the opportunity to influence who got invited to show their work at an important fundraiser here in the city. And so it was nice to be able to go back to artists that I had encouraged and put their names forward. It's one of the things I find a bit frustrating with artists. They're not very good, by and large, at marketing their work. And so it's been rewarding that out of collecting and building those relationships with artists, I've been able to help influence some of that as well. So that's what the collection represents to me. It's an investment in my own community. It's an investment in making that community more interesting for everyone, but somewhat selfishly more interesting for me. So, not totally altruistic, but. Yeah.
And you noted that you tend to support emerging
Yeah.
queer and Indigenous arts.
Mm-hmm.
What is the reason that you support those particular groups?
It's so hard for people to get their start. It's so hard for people to get their voices heard and to be represented. And so the really popular artists, the really well-known ones, the really commercially successful ones, they don't need me. I'm contributing very little by buying a Monet or buying an A.Y. Jackson. He's dead. His work is going to continue to appreciate regardless of anything that I do. So supporting Indigenous artists, supporting queer artists, supporting emerging artists allows me to contribute. Not that within those groups there aren't famous people. I mean, Kent Monkman isn't batting an eye because I bought 2 of his pieces. But local artists, being able to support them, being able to promote their work, being able to validate the time, the energy, the emotional effort, the cognitive effort that they put into creating work, encourages them to keep making it and encourages other people to be exposed to it. Lots of people who've come here or who follow my Facebook page are seeing work by artists for the very first time. So that's what makes it so attractive to do those things. Plus, a lot of that work it's more affordable. It's within the budget range that I have to operate within. So it's possible for me to do it. But the reason I keep doing it is to be a part of that, to be a part of getting those voices out there, validating the effort that those artists are making, helping them to explore their work by putting a few dollars in their pocket and by getting their work out for people to see.
So what are some of the ways that you do share the work that you purchase and appreciate?
I hang it so that when people come, and I rotate it so that when people come they see some different things. I go to their shows, and when I go to the shows I often will take pictures of it and post those pictures and encourage people to check out the show. Each piece that I buy, I photograph it and I put it on my Facebook page. And now I'm starting to get involved with Instagram, so I'll be doing that as well.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. And yeah, I try to give people contact information, how to get in touch with this artist, website, Facebook, or their Instagram accounts, those sorts of things. I describe a little bit about the work, what I found appealing in it, or the story that the artist told me, so that people get a sense of, okay, here's what you'll get. You can't get the piece I bought because I have it, but here's what kind of stuff you can get from this person. And it's amazing how much there is in a piece for people to discover. It's not just, I like those colors, or I hope to open people's eyes to that idea that the piece will continue to speak to you over time. You don't have to get bored with it. You don't have to get so that you don't see it anymore. If you start to look beyond just the surface of the piece, there will be something to enjoy for decades. It's a constant source of showing up at events, going to fundraisers. It's those kinds of things that make this more than just a transactional activity. As if I went to IKEA and bought something and then put it on the wall and then moved on in my life. Yeah.
Well, for people who might go to IKEA and look for art, what advice do you have for them?
My advice would be, think before you go. I'm not saying don't go. I'm not saying that the art that you get at IKEA isn't worth having, especially if it speaks to you. If you look at this piece and it says something to you, by all means, that's what you should have in your home. But I would encourage them before they go to think, is there a local source of original work for the same price? It's shocking how inexpensive original work can be if you make a little bit of effort to find out how to get it. There's lots of auction sites in the city that create a secondary market for work. There are tons of fundraisers that go on. SAW does their sketch event. You can pick up work for as little as $10. The Council for the Arts does their Luck event. You're getting an original piece of work for $125, $150. Most artists have sales of their work at different times of the year. So don't feel that you necessarily have to go to a gallery and pay thousands of dollars to buy a piece. Many artists will trade work for something. You have a service you can offer. You have a skill that you have things in your home that you no longer want. Some artists will trade for work. So if you're a little bit creative in terms of where you look, you can have original work, and that's making a contribution to the community that you live in, not the community that the person who printed that for IKEA lives in. Or you could always make your own art.
Yeah.
People are a lot more talented than they give themselves credit for. It never hurts to have something around your house that you made yourself.
At what point did you start making your own art?
Oh, as a child.
Okay.
I was very fortunate. My parents, particularly my mother, always encouraged creativity. I realize now, looking back, some of that was out of necessity. We didn't have a lot of money, and so there wasn't the option to go out and shop away your boredom. But they were always very positive about making things, decorating my own room. There was never a sense that, boys don't make these kinds of things, or boys don't play with paints or crayons, or there was none of that kind of gender stereotyping. It was, have at it, cook, make things. So I was always encouraged to be creative, always making stuff throughout my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what makes a piece worth buying, and has that changed over the years?
Yeah. The more I've bought work, and the more I've interacted with artists and gallery owners and curators, the more I see in a piece, and so sometimes I am more critical about the work that I'm looking at. But what makes a piece attractive to me is I have to have a reaction to it. When I look at it, I have to be slightly intrigued. I need to go back. I need to. It has to haunt me in a certain way if I start to walk away. I need to see something in it other than just it's pretty, or that it's attractive at first glance. Only because there is a lot of work that meets that bar. It needs to be work that I know I'm going to want to look at for decades to come, because I keep the work I buy. So I'm not looking just to fill a spot on a wall. In fact, historically, I've tended to get rid of furniture in order to make room for the art. Behind us here, I constructed that wall so that I would have a place to hang Adrian's piece.
Smart.
So for me, it's not the art is what's important. The rest of this lives around the art. For a piece to be attractive to me, there has to be something I can connect to, something I can relate to. It might not mean that it reflects my experience or my point of view. The religious art is a good example of that. I don't buy it for the veneration of the subjects in the work. I'm attracted to the passion that I can perceive the artist put into making this, or the passion that piece inspired in people. I find the power of art to transform people, to move them, to embolden them, to invigorate them. Very attractive, a very good thing to be around. So yeah, I need to find something in the piece that I can say, this will make me want to look at you. It might be that there's a mystery in it. There's something I don't get, but I know that it's worth chasing. One of the things that I've learned with the collection being so varied is that as soon as you put two pieces beside each other, they both change. Mm-hmm. What you get from them together changes, and so because as new pieces come in, I hang them. They're constantly going next to something else. There's constantly a new story, and so I'll sit there and I'll think, what am I getting out of the fact that these two pieces are together?
At what point did you realize that you are in fact an art collector?
I realized it more from other people's reactions than my own, because collecting, gathering is a repetitive aspect in my life. There's an element in my psyche that accumulates, and I like patterns in things, and I like multiples of things. And then people started asking me questions about collecting art, and I'm thinking, I'm not is that me? And then you gradually you have some information you can share, and before you know it, you start describing yourself as an art collector.
Have you ever had the thought that you have enough art?
No.
Great. And so, what do you think it is that like makes you keep going?
It's that it matters.
Yeah.
For me, it has meaning. It's not a thoughtless activity. It's not an incidental activity. Like everybody else, I have a budget that I have to live within. So it's a conscious decision to keep buying art. The challenge I have right now isn't that I have enough, because it isn't. The need that it's addressing isn't a need that's ever going to be satisfied. I'm never going to say, oh, now Ottawa is creative enough. Now there are enough successful artists. The next one in line, sorry, you arrived too late. There's no satisfying what I get out of it. The challenge that I have, there's so much of it now in this one space that I worry about my ability to properly care for it, to show it the respect that it deserves, to preserve it so that when I want to pair two pieces up with each other, I can. That's the challenge, is how do I make living where I live work with the art that I acquire. Because every time I think, okay, I'm going to take a break, I'm not going to buy anything for a while, I end up somewhere and come to Papa. And then, okay, this will be the last one. I'm fortunate. I have some disposable income that I can do this with. I don't have obligations to other people or to other things. I don't have any major vices. So this is what I do. I don't travel a lot. I don't drink a lot. I don't do drugs. I don't buy fancy cars. I don't wear fancy clothes. This is my drug of choice. Yeah. And so, so long as I can continue.
It's a nourishing one.
It does. It feeds me. I can be sitting here all by myself, and I have the company of hundreds around me, and some of the most amazing things to look at and to think about, and the satisfaction of what it's helped other people to do.
Right.
My concern, the time we live in right now, there's especially for young people, there's such a constraint on their incomes. It's so difficult for them, I think, to imagine buying art as a thing they put effort into doing. So I think it's really important for those of us who can to do that, so that this stuff is available, and to encourage people to think before you buy something because you think you can only have your choices are only at a big box store, to support the local arts. Yeah.
And it's a huge part of keeping our city creative.
Exactly. If we don't, no one will do that for us. The folks who mass produce things, they play an important part in the economy, but their interest isn't in the creativity, the vibrancy, the variety, the nuances. And we're so lucky in Ottawa. It's such a multicultural city. There's such diversity in the black community and the indigenous community, in the Middle Eastern community, the African community. There's so much there to sample and to be a part of, that it would be a shame if we gave that over to a company to do for us.
Amen to that.
Yeah, exactly.